So what do you say we get right to this? I've got 7 things here that I think will help you rewire what it means to be in selling. Let's go with number 1. I want you to create an environment where the customer is selling you, not on where you are selling them. Think about when we go out to sell and we go out to communicate our value, we typically want the deal. That's usually the platform or the position we have. But what if it wasn't like that? I'm going to talk a little bit later about how to get your mind right and rewire it so that you don't want the deal. What you want is to help serve the customer. And the better you can get at creating the atmosphere where they're telling you what their problems are, how those problems impact them, how much those problems cost them to have unsolved, the more you can get into that kind of conversation, the more likely the customer is to be able to say, hey, can you help me here? What do you have that can help me? And then when you explain your value and your offer, it makes a whole lot of sense to them. The worst thing you can do is not do that, is enter the position from where you're trying to get them to do business with you and you're pulling out all the tactics and tricks. It just doesn't work today. I don't know if it ever did, but it doesn't work today. So step number 1, how to rewire your thinking about selling, is to change the entire dynamic away from you selling them to them selling you. They're not selling you on why you should sell to them, although sometimes they do. They're selling you on why they have a problem that's just untenable, or a vision that they have to get to. So this emotion has to come from them to you, not from you to them. My name is Bill Caskey. I've worked with hundreds of companies over the last 30 years, helping their sales teams to perform better, execute better, primarily in the business-to-business range. Let's get into number 2. Never propose a solution until you can document the problem and the cost of the problem. Those 2 things. Think about this too. When you go out to propose a solution, if you don't have any understanding of the cost of the problem, your solution likely has a cost to it, but they're comparing the cost of the solution to doing nothing. You never want to juxtapose those 2 numbers because they will always do nothing. This is hard to do. I mean, I run into it sometimes with my clients who want to bring me in or to consider bringing me in to work with their team. I have to become very clear not only on the problem that I'm coming in to solve or that they have, but also on the cost of that problem. What's the economic impact if they do nothing? If they don't do anything, they keep status quo, business as usual, BAU, as we say in the tech business. We don't say it, but in the tech business, business as usual. What's the economic impact of that? What's the emotional impact if they decide to do nothing? So rewire number 2 is you've got to understand that you can't propose until you know the pain they're trying to fix, or the pain they're trying to avoid in the future, and the cost of that pain. Before we get into number 3, I've always said that how we think determines how we act, and how we act determines our results. And what happens a lot of times is we want different results. We want to grow our business. We want to 2x, 10x, 1,000x our business, but we never change our thinking. Never change our thinking about us, who we are, what we're there to do, what is your role in this buyer-seller relationship and the dance. And if you don't change your mind, the actions then become forced. And the fact is that if I want to help you 2x your business, I can't just tell you to work twice as hard. You should, if I'm your coach and I tell you that, run quickly. Run quickly from any coach that goes from results back to behavior, and they skip this process of thinking. So I'm giving you these rewiring mechanisms today because I think it will help you grow your business substantially if you can get these 7 things. Okay, let's go to number 3. Start with the mentality of, I don't know if I can help. I don't know if I can help because I don't know the problem. I don't know how committed you are to fixing the problem. I don't know if the cost of my solution is supreme to the cost of the problem. I don't know these things. So I want you to begin mentally from the standpoint of, I don't know. I think we've been sold a bill of goods when these trainers came along and said, I want to assume that I'm going to get the deal. Well, that's ridiculous. Number 1, you may not want the deal. What if they're about ready to declare bankruptcy, or they just don't have the money, or they're not the kind of people you want to work with? So I don't know covers you. And it's a mentality first. At some point, I think that mentality turns into language. I think it's okay to say, look, I'm happy you invited me in. I don't know whether I can be of value or not. You don't have to say help. You can say be of value. But I don't know are the 3 words I want you to learn here. It's a rewiring of your mindset so that when you say, I don't know if I can help you or I can serve you or bring value, you now open up space. You open up space for them to tell you whether you can or not, and for them to tell you what their problems are, which was number 2. So the third rewire is you've got to start with the mentality of I don't know, and also sometimes and often on the first call, the language of I don't know. Let's go to number 4. Position yourself as a guide, not as a salesperson. Think about it. When you hire a guide, maybe you're going to Utah and go to our national parks and there's some rough terrain, or you want to get to the top of one of the arches or whatever it is, you hire a guide. And you trust that guide has been down that road before. You trust they know where they're going, how they're going to get there. They have a map. They understand the terrain. They can advise you if you don't have the right shoes on, or if you're going up in elevation and you don't have the right gear. They will tell you that. You trust the guide to help get you from where you are to where you want to be, in this case, the top of the mountain. Prospects the same way. If you show up as a salesperson and you don't have an ounce of guide in you, I even call it, instead of leadership, I call it guidership. That's corny, but I'm going with it. I want you to be the guide to help them get from where they are to where they want to be. When you're the guide and you have the map, they will trust you and they will follow you. If you're not the guide, if you're just trying to pitch something and you have no roadmap at all to help them see the general trek that you're going to take from where they are to where they want to be, it doesn't have to be in minute detail, but you need to have some kind of a roadmap. Guides have roadmaps. Guides is a great way to rewire your mind so that you're no longer in that sales role where you're trying to convince them to do something. It's not about that. It's about the destination. What are they running from? What are they running toward? If you have the map and you're a guide, they're going to follow you. The number 5 rewire is their problems are always deeper than they'll tell you. I learned this when I started to study psychology and counseling, is that the problem the patient brings to you on the first meeting with a counselor is never the real problem. It's the surface problem. It's not the deep problem. Same with your prospects. You haven't created the trust yet where they feel like you deserve to know their innermost thoughts and feelings and pains and problems and impact if they decide not to solve this. And we talked about a little bit in the first one is you've got to create the atmosphere where they're selling you. But first off, you're creating the atmosphere where they're telling you what are their problems. How deep are their problems? I don't want you to take people to therapy and lay them on the couch and do some kind of hypnotic trance thing. No, I just want you to be aware that the surface level problem is never the real problem. The promise here is that when you can uncover the real problem, budgets suddenly get bigger. Executive buy-in suddenly gets larger. The prospect suddenly takes on a sense of urgency to invite you in to help them solve the problem. The fact is that if you're dealing with people who are not calling you back, or maybe you've sent a proposal, and we all do it, I've done it from time to time where I miss something, I don't go deep enough, and then they don't talk to me, I don't hear from them. Well, why is that? Did they not like me? Maybe not, but it's probably I never isolated on the real problem. I was dealing on the surface, not in the deep. Rewire number 6, detach totally from any and all outcomes. Why is this important? Because the moment in the sales cycle they detect desperation on your part, you screw up the deal. You're no longer in a position of authority and guidership. No longer are you. You're there as a needy, desperate salesperson. So I want you to work on detaching from all outcomes. You attach to the process, detach from the outcomes. What happens when you detach from the outcomes? You have all the power, not over people, but over the process. And if you can get your mind around this idea of detachment, it will change your business life. It'll change your sales life. Plus, it will attract more business to you because you don't look desperate and needy. The first thing that we think about when someone around us looks desperate, especially if it's a salesperson, is what are they hiding? Why are they so desperate to make a sale? Do they really care about me, or do they only care about the money that I'm about to give them for the solution? Let's move to number 7. Stop trying to overcome objections and preempt them instead. Everyone knows that you have been trained to overcome objections. the objection of price, the objection of timing, the objection of, I'm not sure we want to do this right now, the objection of, I really don't see the value, and maybe we should just keep doing what you're doing. I want you to preempt those. How do you preempt them? You preempt them by knowing what those objections are. Now you'll say, Bill, but I won't know until I, make the offer what the objections are. You know what the objections are. There's only 3 or 4 objection categories. One is timing. It's just not the right time. 2 is money. They either can't afford it, don't want to pay it. 3 is their commitment to fixing the problem. So I want you to preempt those. I want you to be bringing those things up in the sales cycle, not them. When they bring them up as objections, you're on your heels. You're defensive. Well, if I could show you a way, Mr. Johnson, that I can show that, are you ready to buy today? Oh, that crap doesn't work. That's from the 60s and 70s. I want you to be the person that says, hey, I know one thing that people sometimes question, and that is the investment on something like this. How do you look at an investment like this? Do you look at it as sheer outgo, just expense, or do you look at it as an ROI? And if so, how do you ascertain what the proper ROI is? I want to know that. I want to be the one bringing it up. I want to do that. Then let them knock those things down. Remember, number 1, you create the atmosphere where the buyer is selling you, not where you're selling them. And one way to do it is to identify what are the top 5 objections that people have, and then frame those throughout the sales process as questions. Typically, people at this point have 2 or 3 questions. 1 is this worth it? 2 is, how committed am I? 3 is, do I have the time for this? You bring them up and ask them if they have those feelings or those objections or those questions. When you do all 7 of these things, here's my promise. You will shorten the selling cycle. You will feel more confident in the entire sales process and probably as a salesperson in general, because you've rewired your mind. Remember what I talked about in between number 2 and 3? I said that everything starts in the mind. How you think determines how you act determines your results. So stop just looking for action to change your results. Look deeper than that. Look at how you're thinking about things. I've got a client right now who I just started with about a month ago, and they're in the distribution business. And in the distribution business, everybody's in the distribution business. They have tons of competitors, and everybody's calling on the same customer. And so we started working on messaging, and we started working on how they conduct themselves with prospects. And even now they go in and say, look, I understand that you have a lot of choices here. You probably have gotten 10 calls today from other vendors who have similar products. And the prospect's always like, yeah, 10, try 20. So now we've met them where they are. Now we're able to start to move them because we are unafraid, we're fearless about bringing up those things. And when you can rewire your mind, your actions almost automatically change. Get your mind right, get your actions right, and the results will take care of themselves. If after listening to this, you say, Bill, I think you got something here. I want to talk further about maybe bringing these into my team. I'm happy to do that. You can go to www.scheduleacallwithcaskey. We can spend 20, 30 minutes on the phone, tell you what we do. You tell me what you're looking for, and we can decide if I can be of any value to you. All right? I appreciate you watching this video. We'll talk soon. Bye.